Welcome back to the first Takedown Podcast. We are on episode 16. I'm Alex alongside a Hunter Gamble here. Hunter, how you doing?
Good, man. As you might notice, got a little change of scenery. The one I'm normally in. Switched apartments, moved cities. A lot of stuff in the last 2 weeks. We were able to squeeze that interview in with Scotty right before. That was pretty cool. And then the last 2 weeks I've been kind of all over the place. Yeah, we made the big move, and then we were like, hey, we got to get on here and talk a little National Duels and talk a little RAF. So hopefully the camera's working and everything. The Wi-Fi's. We were having some technical difficulties leading up for maybe the last half hour.
Hey, that's okay. That'll happen when you start switching up. But yeah, that was a lot of fun when we talked to Scotty. You got a lot of love from that podcast, and excited because it's almost wrestling season. It is almost time. November 1st.
Yep, you can feel it in the air. You can feel it.
We are we're recording on October 16th. Maybe I shouldn't say that, depending on how long it takes us to get this out on the air, but it is almost time. It's almost time. So we're excited. Just going to go right out the bat and talk about these National Duels, or National Duels Invitational, right? Because it's invitational only. I mean, I'm excited for these, but I want to hear your thoughts, high level.
Yeah. So, I mean, listen, I think they've always been trying to do something like this ever since we were in college. Before we were in college, they had a National Duels. When we were in college, they had National Duels, and then it kind of went away for a little while. There were different versions of it. That I think they tried to come up with some sort of duel tournament to determine a national champion of duels. I don't really think that the NCAA is ever going to do something like that. At a sponsored level, I think that the tournament will always be considered the champ. So whoever, whatever team wins the tournament will be considered the champ. But I think you have to basically say that the duels are maybe the easiest thing for a normal everyday fan to follow, right? You can take in a duel. It's about an hour and a half. It's just like a game in any other sport, right? It doesn't take up a ton of your time, and also it's a lot easier to track than maybe like a whole tournament, So
yeah,
it's hard, man. I think just and I know I'm getting a little sidetracked, but for a lot of people that want to make the National Duels the national champion of the year, it's hard to change the NCAA tournament because of how successful it is, how many fans you get, and how successful it is. I don't know how much of that is the team race versus just going and watching individual guys win, but it's hard to really want to change, like, hey, we want to take away the team title at the individual tournament and make that we'll change it, and the winner of duels is the actual team champion.
Yeah.
I do think it would maybe make it more exciting for the fans. I think duels have a level of parity that can't be found in a tournament. For the most part, the best team is going to win the tournament, and I think for the most part in duels that would be the case, but I think there's times where upsets happen and they have a much larger impact. An upset happens at the national tournament, you can still battle back through and take third, much like we saw the Penn State guys do this year, right? A bunch of them came back and took a loss on the top side and came back and took third. So I know that's not really what you asked, but I kind of wanted to get into that. I kind of wanted to get into that conversation just because I think that it's an important one to have, as far as if we ever did make the duels, the actual national champion, the NCAA champion. I think a tournament like this is kind of the building blocks to get there. Successful is year one of the national duels, where instead of having maybe the glory of being the national champion, there's a lot of money on the line, which is also, in the sport in the days of NIL, just as important as maybe some of the glory of being a national champion.
Yeah, and just to take a quick step back, the duels are going to be November 15th to 16th, so we've got like a month, and in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we've got some of like the top teams that are going to be here. I mean, looking at it, I was trying to see like who is not going to be there that I would think that maybe should be. I mean, The only thing I can think of at the top of my head is like Iowa State, maybe. I mean, you've got Iowa at Northern Iowa, just running through them, like Oklahoma State, Iowa, Minnesota, Wyoming, NC State, Michigan, Cornell, Little Rock, Ohio State, Nebraska, Virginia Tech, Missouri, Northern Iowa, Illinois, Lehigh, and Arizona State. I mean, it's packed.
Yeah, so I mean, the obvious one is Penn State, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I mean that's the obvious one that is not there. And we didn't figure that they would go a year. I think maybe they could get rallied to go in future years. But, I mean, Kale's kind of shown that, like, he doesn't really care about anything other than just the national tournament. And so, and you can't blame him. I mean, that's where they're building towards every year, is a national tournament. But I don't think that those things are mutually exclusive to build for the national tournament and also wrestle in the national duels. I mean, they're months and months away. I don't know. I think that we have all the top teams again besides Penn State and Iowa State, and the only reason Iowa State's not there is because the way that they put teams in for bids to make it for invitations to the national duels was you had to be like, I'm pretty sure you had to be top 20. And I don't think Iowa State finished top 20 at the NCAA tournament. They actually didn't have a great tournament this past year. Obviously, Younger Bastida was out. Pinheiro had a bad tournament. I think Chittum didn't have a great tournament. Some of the guys Evan Frost ended up not having like the best. Jacob Frost placed, but they were missing a lot of guys. They were super banged up. Echemendia wasn't wrestling, so they were just missing some guys. But anyways,
yeah. Well, I was gonna say. Yeah, and I was gonna say, I mean, to your point, I mean, like wrestling in high school, like you have the two pretty much state titles that come, invitational and then like the state duels. And in Georgia, do they do state duels first and then the invitational?
They do. State duels is typically like the end of January, and then I think it goes state duels, weekend off, and then right into like your regionals.
Yeah, and that's kind of been the argument with NCAAs, right? Is that you have all these duels throughout the year, but there's not as much. It doesn't matter as much if like guys don't wrestle a duel, they sit out because they're helping their seed or whatever it is to try to get ready for the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, but I mean, look, they hand out a Big Ten trophy for duels, regular season champs, Big Ten champs. Like that is like they give that out every single year, and they give out a trophy for Big Ten tournament. So I guess I just don't really understand why the NCAA wouldn't sponsor that. Like, if it's something that's normal for the sport, I'm not sure necessarily why. I think there's plenty of sports that you could point to that do have maybe, and I don't want to say like indoor track versus outdoor track. They're different sports. I'm not necessarily saying that. But I think there's things that you could point to where it's like, okay, like there's regular season conference champs and then there's tournament conference champs. Like, we see that, and I'm pretty sure we see the same thing in softball and baseball as well. So.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm excited that they're doing this and with just such good teams and a lot of talent. And it's going to be exciting. I mean, I think about it like compared to college football where you've got some, you want to start off college football on a high note, and they put some good teams against each other the first week, and maybe those losses don't carry as much weight because this is the beginning of the season, which I think that will kind of be the same case for this. Like, you might lose to somebody, but it was really early on, and kind of a little bit like Cliff Keene's usually a little bit early on too, and it gives people a lot of time to make adjustments by the time to the end of the year comes.
No doubt, and I mean, let's just maybe get into it a little bit. I mean,
we'll
break down the bracket some, just so we have a little bit to discuss. I mean, right off the rip is November 15th at 9 a.m. is the top side of the bracket, which is Iowa, Missouri. You got to feel pretty good about Iowa being they've got a pretty clear path. I mean, they'd have to beat Missouri and then either Illinois or Little Rock. So I mean, you feel pretty good about them making the semis. I would say that's maybe the weakest quad to me. Maybe it's because I feel like Iowa's so strong, and then those other teams don't feel like they have the same firepower or nearly to the level. Whereas I think I see in some of the other quads that there's some teams that can compete with like maybe the seeded team in that quad.
I think also Iowa, for some reason, they feel like, and I know this isn't in Carver Hawkeye, but they've always felt like a good dual team. And I feel like they have a little bit more, compared to like the tournament team. So, yeah, I agree with you there for sure.
Yeah, and then we'll look at the next quad, which is, right 9 a.m., man. Northern Iowa, NC State is absolute fire. Oklahoma State, Cornell, as well. I really like this quad. I think you see NC State, Oklahoma State. I think NC State just has maybe a little bit too much for Northern Iowa, unless Northern Iowa can maybe pull an upset or two. So I think NC State maybe has just a little too much, and then you see Oklahoma State and NC State in a duel that I think anything really could happen. And I think that's where you're going to have to see some of the young guys for Oklahoma State shine for them to beat NC State. It doesn't sound like I would give a little more credit to Cornell. Like, I don't want to, we just had Scotty on 2 weeks ago, and I'm just bouncing them. But it sounds like they're going to gray shirt a lot of their freshmen. Mm-hmm. And Meyer Shapiro is not going to be wrestling at this event either. So they're losing one of their horses right out of the gate. So I think it's going to be an uphill battle for them to win this first round duel against Oklahoma State.
Yeah, and we have the knowledge, right, of a couple of guys wait until this second semester to start within the season. But yeah, it's gonna be cool to see some of these young guys kind of on the big stage, and I'm excited for that potential Oklahoma State NC State match up and what that looks like, because they're kind of gonna see what those teams are made of, and a lot of these new guys are getting their first chance in here. Bottom side of the bracket. The next squad is starting at 11 a.m. We've got Ohio State and Wyoming, and then VTech and Minnesota.
Yeah, so you got to feel strong about Ohio State beating that Wyoming team. That's a good team that they fielded out there. But, man, Iowa State's going to be pretty salty this year. That young group of guys that they brought in a few years ago is now kind of a little bit older. And you add in Ben DeVino, and you add in some guys that, obviously you have to take away a Rocco Welsh, which isn't great, but you add in some other guys that have super high potential. And that's going to be a tough team. I actually maybe enjoy this quad the most, I think, because that Virginia Tech Minnesota duel to me is probably the best duel round one, because I don't really know what's going to happen. You can kind of look at it on paper and draw some conclusions, but both of those teams are top 10 teams, and they're two really, really great programs right now in wrestling. When I think of top 10, when I just think of top 10 team, I think of Virginia Tech and Minnesota, and they've got some super high caliber guys. Obviously, the news lately with Bo Bassett and Melvin Miller signing with Virginia Tech, they're kind of on an upward trajectory as far as, just everything that they've been doing on the recruiting trail. And then just, their social media, the team that they have is really good too. So that's a fun one. And then whoever wrestles in that quarter with Ohio State, either Virginia Tech or Minnesota, is another great matchup.
Yeah, that's that one that you're talking about, Virginia Tech, Minnesota. I feel like it's so early for us to say, with a lot of these teams, right? But I feel like it's going to be who shows up that day. I could see it, for some reason, Minnesota, blowing out Virginia Tech, but then it could be the opposite, and then it could come down to last match. I think it literally could go anyway, depending on how they show up. And that's what makes it exciting. I think these duels, from being so early in the year, because you don't really know which wrestlers you're going to get yet. This bottom half, or the last squad here, is Arizona State versus Michigan, and then Lehigh versus Nebraska. What do you think about this?
Yeah, so another good crop of teams. Michigan, Michigan, Arizona State, that's a lot to think about, a lot to digest there. We get to run it back from the COVID duel that they had 4 years ago. Do you remember that, where they were wearing the mask?
Yeah.
In the Flow Wrestling. Yeah, that was an interesting one. But I'm excited to watch Lehigh. I really am. They've really built a great team of lightweights, and not that they don't have good upper weights as well, but it's just, when you think about that lightweight crew that they have with Sheldon Seymour and Crookham and Stanich.
Stanich is big boy now.
Yeah, he's 41, right? I guess the 41's still a lightweight.
Yeah, it's still a lightweight.
Stanich, and then, you start really looking at that lineup. It's pretty salty. And obviously they're going to be a little outgunned against Nebraska. Nebraska's got a really solid squad. You just look at that duel, and it's kind of fun to watch. It'll be fun to watch a lot of those lightweights and those guys from Lehigh. I really like that team this year, and I'm excited to see them. Even if they take a loss here, can they then battle back and beat an Arizona State or a Michigan? And then, what happens with the drop down? I think they would end up running into an NC State, or I don't know if Illinois or Little Rock would be the one that I can't really tell from the bracket.
Yeah.
You would think I would know how to do this after years. I don't know if it's just a complete flop of that round. If it is, then I think they'd maybe see Illinois or Little Rock, and that's a match that's winnable for them. So, man, we'll see. I'm excited to watch all these teams, and I really like I hate to be this. I do think it ends up being chalky, and we get the 1, 2, 3, 4 seeds in the semis.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, what's our early predictions? Any upsets? I mean, of semis, and then who's gonna take it away?
Yeah, so I mean, we're a biased show a bit. I mean, obviously, yeah. So I just look. Should Iowa win this or Nebraska win this? I think they should. I just am going to give the benefit of the doubt to the Cowboys. And I don't know for what reason. I swear, I'm not even being like...
I know you.
I really feel like I'm not even being a homer. I think there's some way, like, they're going to get their guys ready, and I think that they're going to pull it out. And I could be completely wrong, and someone else could come in and win this thing. And I think that on paper, probably Iowa should win. They've got the better team on paper. They've got the better ranked guys. Nebraska as well. But you start to look at some of these matchups, and it gets really, really exciting looking at some of these matchups. Patrick Kennedy against Alex Facundo.
Yeah.
Zach Ryder against Angelo Ferrari. And so, you start to get excited about some of those matchups that you look at Iowa versus Oklahoma State. They're going to roll out what's that freshman's name for Iowa? Leo DeLuca, that's going to roll out against Spratley right away, right? So, and then you've got what? Are they going to roll out Figueroa? Is he going to wrestle Ayala? Like we saw that match a couple years ago in the national finals. Like I'm not, and look, I think Drake's come a long way since then, and he's probably in a better weight class than he should, but I watched those two guys wrestle each other in the national finals, and that wasn't that long ago. That was a year and a half ago. So, I don't know, man. It's just, it's exciting, and Oklahoma State's obviously got a lot of, they've got a lot of lineup questions, but I think that David and those guys, they get them ready, and they're going to have a really good chance to win this thing in year one.
That makes me excited thinking about all those matchups, because it's when you see it on the paper and you're like, oh, I know it's going to be good, but then when you actually start to go in of what those matches could be, you're like, oh shoot, I'm going to get to watch this at Sunday at 10 a.m. I'm so excited. But and that will, if it goes Iowa, Oklahoma State, we'll see that at the beginning of this year, and then they're going to wrestle again in a duel at the end of the year. So that'll be cool to see what changes from there. But I'm going to say, I think after those pictures that came out a couple weeks ago, I think Nebraska is coming. They're like, hey, we're here to prove that we're top dogs. It wasn't a fluke. How many national champs that we had at the tournament? You've got AJ Ferrari wrestling heavyweight. We might see him against Feldman. Might see him against Big Ben from Iowa. So I think Nebraska is going to come. They get ready at the end of the season, but I think they're going to be ready to get going from the beginning.
Hey, they're always ready at Cliff Keen, man. They're always ready at Cliff Keen. I think they've won that tournament quite a few times over the last few years, and certainly not a team I'm discounting when I pick the Cowboys at all. I think more so than anything, I'm going to use the cliche term: who wins the tournament? The fans win the tournament. But
it's true, though.
Seriously, it's gonna be some really good dual matchups, and it's gonna be so fun to watch. And I don't think we've ever really seen a product quite like the one we're gonna get to watch.
Yeah, you're right about that. And yeah, it's just exciting that you like seeing this many top teams, and gonna hopefully see some really, really good matchups that hopefully don't have too many people that are sitting out that they have. It seems like, at least from what I've heard and seen just on the Twitter sphere, that most people are planning to bring like full lineups and going for it. So
yeah.
That is the National Duels, starting off the year November 15th to 16th in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's in Oklahoma, so it might have a couple more fans than anybody.
Ride 'em, cowboy.
All right, let's switch gears here. Going into Real American Freestyle. I know we talked about just the concept a little bit, a couple podcasts ago, our thoughts on it. And they're doing another one here on October 25th. And I kind of want to hear from you. I mean, we'll go through the matchups real quick, but what are your thoughts? We've got another one, and we don't know too much about it. besides when it's happening. And now they have all the matchups, I think, that are going to be happening now on October 20th.
Yeah, so first thoughts, it seems to be there are some contract negotiation or disputes or whatever it may be. Initially, we had talked about this Kyle Snyder-Mason Paris match, which has since been removed, and those guys are now no longer. It doesn't look like those guys are gonna wrestle each other any longer. Mason Paris is gonna wrestle Alexander Romanov. I think that's to do with Kyle. I think Kyle's gonna wrestle in something else, and maybe there's a dispute with his contract with RAF. I don't know that to be the case. I'm just speculating what I think. Willie did say that all of the RAF contracts are exclusive. So if you're wrestling in RAF, you're only wrestling in RAF if you're wrestling in the Pro League. So that's what makes me think that. Now, to talk about the matches that are actually going on, it's a great card, but they've already clearly shifted a couple of things a little different. And I don't want to say, well, I guess they have and they haven't. They've had some stars on the card that maybe aren't the cream of the crop level wrestlers, but they've had but are some big names. Last time they ended up having Holly Holm on the card. She ended up wrestling. And now they've got this match with Caden Henschel and Muggsy Bulljunk, which is an Instagram influencer. He's got, probably I think he's got over 1 million followers at this point. He's a wrestling Instagram influencer. These guys actually did do an exhibition match, and Caden beat Muggsy up pretty good the last time that they wrestled. And it was, I think Muggsy ended up maybe hurting himself or got hurt. But that's kind of the risk you take a little bit when you're wrestling a guy that wrestles. I mean, Caden Henschel wrestling, he's a pretty good D2 wrestler. He's pretty good. And he's wrestling a guy that never really, came up and wrestled and trained and did all those things and went through all that. The guy's got some pretty cool stuff on Instagram, but, I don't know. That's cool. It could be a cool product, but I almost wonder if I think Caden really, really outmatches this guy, and I wonder if he even pulls back a little bit to make the product a little better, which to me is that's when you get into a slippery slope a little bit of okay, what are we? Are we the WWE? We're trying to set this match up to be a little bit closer, that we're gonna put the guy on his back and let him kick out at 2? What are we doing? And I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just speculating. If he goes out there and buries the guy in 30 seconds, I don't think you get much from that, right? You got to kind of build this guy up a little bit if you want to have him back and wrestle somebody else. Or is this just a one-off? And maybe it is. I'm not here to say it's not. It could just be a one-off, but I wanted to first address that match because I think that was kind of, before we get into all the other matches, that one stands out as one that's different than all the other ones.
Yeah, it definitely seems like we're still in the experimental phase, right? Of, can we have a little bit of these social media? Are you trying to bring some more followers? Can we throw some other people on the card just for fun? But to your point, is it hurting the credibility of it, or is it helping? And could it be a slippery slope? I don't know. I mean, is this something where they do have, they have their belts, but then they have this open one where they do put fun cards together, fun of what they can kind of pull together. So I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, myself personally, I'm not I didn't know that they had wrestled before. I'm not super excited about it yet, to be honest. But that doesn't mean that I'm I'll probably still tune in and see how it goes, and hopefully that it goes well. Like we said, we hope we want it to do well. We're not going against but yeah.
Well, let's get into the other matches. I mean, there's some really good matchups on this card. I mean, right off the rip, it's Carter Starachi, Nate Jackson. That's fun. I mean, if you were saying at the beginning of the year, did I really want to watch Carter Starachi, Nate Jackson? It's not some storyline behind it. Those guys are both really, really good, though. So,
yeah,
that'll be fun. Obviously, you got the really, Nate's a little older. He's kind of around my time. He's getting up there a little bit as far as outside of your prime, and it seems like Starachi's kind of coming into his. But this will be the first time we see him not with Nittany Lion, or at least I don't think he was with Nittany Lion. I don't know if he is now. It says on the website that he is, but I thought he was gone, so I don't.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Like, who's going to be in his corner? I think that's probably the most exciting thing. Is like we're going to see Carter Sirachi for the first time, and is he with Nittany Lion? Is he not? Like, that's what's intriguing to me about this match.
Yeah, that's true. I was thinking that too. It said it on his club, so I'd be interested. I know we're going to get into another one here in a little bit, but Jake Varner's going to be there, and I was like, oh, it would have been fun to see Sirachi and Downey again, just to see. But that's also that's where the little bit of the drama comes into.
From each other, at the weigh-in line. Keep them away from each other at the weigh-in line or the face-off.
All right. Well, the next one is at the bantamweight at 135. We got old Nico Megaludis. And then you might have to say this name.
I mean, listen, I don't know much about Yatsenko, Ukrainian athlete. I'll be completely honest. I really don't know much about him. I don't really have much on this match. I mean, cool. It's going to be another wrestling match. I'm excited to see Nico again. I mean, he was national champion for Penn State. I think that's cool that he's, back wrestling, especially when it's going to be in the Bryce Jordan Center. So. Yeah. That's really cool to me, but it's not something that I've gotten really excited about. We get to see James Green wrestle again. That's cool. He's wrestling Sal Kazanov, who's a pretty tough guy out of Slovakia. So that'll be another fun match. You've got some really good undercard matchups before we get into this championship match with David Carr.
Yeah, did David Carr wrestled last time and won? I'd have to look, to be honest.
I would have to look too. I don't think so.
But they are wrestling for another belt, I guess is my point.
Yeah, but this might be just the initial championship that they're giving out. I could be wrong.
I'll look at it.
I don't remember David wrestling.
I don't either. Do you know much about this guy from Egypt?
Again, I don't. And I think it's cool that they're getting some talented foreign guys on here. But for the most part, a lot of the people watching RAF aren't going to know these guys. They're going to have to build these guys up, unless they're the best of the best. They're going to have to build these guys up, or they're going to have to bring in domestic guys, because most of these guys just aren't going to be very well known until they maybe come to one of these and beat a guy like David Carr, right? So.
I do think that is cool to kind of give them an opportunity, to come over here, make some money in the sport of wrestling, and to kind of make a name for yourself. Let's see, 165, they did not wrestle, so that's a vacated title right now.
Gotcha. Yeah. So they'll crown a champ there, and then they'll also crown a champ. It seems like Helen Maroulis will wrestle Samantha Stewart from Canada. I would expect Helen to be a massive favorite there, especially after her world title run a few weeks ago, maybe a little over a month ago. So I'll expect her to be a big favorite there. And then we get into a fun one that's maybe I don't know if these guys will ever really battle for a title on RAF with Varner and Downey. Varner being 39 years old, the dude's amazing. He's an Olympic champion. He's awesome, but he's 39. And in the Unlimited, you've got guys like Mason Paris and Wyatt Hendrickson. So I just don't see these guys ever maybe battling for that title. But it's kind of an intriguing matchup, man. Pat Downey's always an interesting guy, and I like watching him wrestle because he's just a little bit of chaos. Who do you got in this, actually? I kind of want to know what you think about who wins this match.
I don't know. I mean, think from the last time that Pat Downey wrestled, if this makes it out of 2 minutes, it seems like I think Jake Varner, for some reason, I feel like he still has a tank on him, because I bet he's still wrestling all the time in practice. So I don't know. I think Jake Varner's still going to win, because I bet he's just stubborn and still super hard to score on.
I think he's probably bigger too, man.
Yeah.
He's got to be bigger than Downey. I think Varner wins too, but I could see PD3 getting on him a little early and then maybe running out of some gas. But Varner just seems like a really hard guy to move around. So I don't know. I'm going to take Varner as well, but that one, I don't really know who's you could say, oh, this guy won. I would not be surprised.
Yeah, and what's interesting with that one too is just because of the atmosphere and stuff. Like, I wonder, will it actually, could it get chippy? Maybe just
I
because of
hope
the
so.
character, that
Yeah.
Pat Downey is. So
Bring it on. That'd be awesome.
yeah, yeah.
Let's get into one that I'm really excited for, man. RBY, Nathan Tomasello. I'm excited for this match. I do think we see a new champion crowned. I think RBY is going to win. He's been wrestling great lately. The only thing that would take me away from him winning is just he has been sucking his body down quite a bit to make that 57 kilos, and now he's wrestling up a little bit higher. Does that like reinvigorate him? Like, does he get more juice wrestling up, or like has he maybe shrunk his body down too much to where he's got a guy that in Tomasello who is maybe walking around a little more heavier? And so I don't know. I don't know that answer. I think that's the only way that I could see. So I mean, RBY is a better wrestler right now. I mean, he just is. He's a better wrestler right now. I mean, Tomasello's got a really good lefty high C, but overall, RBY's got a much more bag of tricks, much more accomplished on the freestyle scene as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I've seen Tomasello one time in person in a crowd in Ohio, and I could tell from a mile away who it was, just because of the way he's built. Is like,
yeah,
short, wide as he is, but in muscle, like as tall as he is. And I hope it's a fun one, but I think RBY is going to control. And as I was looking at my resource of Wikipedia, yeah, 165 is the only one that's vacated, and then for women's, there's that 120 that they're wrestling, and then 150 is also vacated right now.
Gotcha. And then we'll see Paris, like we mentioned earlier. We talked about that match with Mason Paris wrestling Romanov. I think this is kind of one of those ones where they get Paris in there, they get him a win, or at least I think this is the thought of RAF. Get him a win, build up that match even more with Wyatt Hendrickson for the title.
Yeah. And then the big one.
Yeah, Boris Mikoev, Kyle Dake for the 190-pound, the Cruiserweight Championship. You got to feel good about Kyle here. And then this is my thought maybe a little bit, and I don't know where you sit on this, but like, maybe we see like a really good matchup from Carter Starachi early on, right? He looks really good against Nate Jackson and wins. And then Kyle Dake beats Mikoev. And then you kind of have this little bit, like they wrestled at World Team Trials and it was really tight, pretty controversial right there, kind of in the margins. And then you've kind of had this fallout with Starachi. And then, like, okay, Starachi looked good. Kyle Dake wins. He's now 2-0 in RAF. Let's do Starachi Dake for the title, and maybe have a little bit of just some, maybe some of Starachi's chippiness against Nittany Lion Wrestling Club, if that actually exists. I don't even know. I'm trying to fabricate stories.
Yeah, I mean, you're bringing me in. I'm like, okay, all right.
Get some storylines going with RAF, and I think that's the one that makes the most sense and still has me intrigued. I'm not sure Kyle Dake's better than Starachi right now. And so that's where I'm like, and I don't think the fans are either. So it's like, can you put some heat behind that match? I think the story kind of already writes itself a little bit.
Yeah. That's a good point. Hey, you're getting me interested. When's RAF 3?
Trying to build RAF 3 and have, Hendrickson and Paris title fight.
Yes.
Dake, Starachi title fight.
Yeah.
Got already some stories built up. And then you can start to use that undercard to keep building some of these athletes up. And then have those big sort of title match feels between, some of the bigger names of the sport. But yeah, they got to keep getting some guys in here and building them up and continue to. I mean, if RBY is able to come in here and take the title, can they get another smaller guy at 135 to come in? I liked what the UFC has done, where they will put strategically like a title fight of a certain weight and then a contender fight of a certain weight on the same card.
Same. Mm-hmm.
Now, they do that for a couple reasons. They do that, one, because if the guy in the title fight pulls out, they're able to elevate a guy up. But they do it for another reason, which is like it creates that storyline in the same night. It can create that storyline in the middle of that same night, and that to me is pretty cool.
Yeah. I think that's what's gonna really help them. As wrestling is a little bit harder to market, having a little bit of that storyline behind and building some of the people up. I'm excited to see what it does, but I know we mentioned this real quick at the beginning that like we didn't know too many of the matchups that were happening till we were, getting ready for the podcast here. And I think that's one thing we're maybe still missing the mark a little bit is the marketing of these matches. But maybe that will still start to fall in line a little bit as they're building this up, because I know this is just the second one they're doing.
Well, but again, like the one that I was really excited about was Snyder in Paris, and then it gets pulled, and then it's like, so... Yeah. Some of this is booking too, like when they announce it, like that's got to be a go. And I get things happen and, there's contract disputes and things like that. But I think when you're first starting off, if you have to continually change plans and like, we're always like changing, what the matchups are. It feels like I'm like a part of Firefest, and I don't want any part of that. Like, I don't want that.
Yeah. So we'll see. RAF 2 is on October 25th. Going to be some good ones. Hey, now I'm rooting for Starachi to win that matchup against Jackson.
Sure.
And
yeah.
Build some drama. Yeah, you did it. Hey, they should hire you. Yeah, man, that's exciting. Anything else on that? I mean, I know we're wrapping up here, but.
No, man, the season's coming up, and I'm excited to see how RAF kind of fits into the season, right? How do they manage those dates throughout the season? Do you have like a card in November? Do you have a card in December? Do you pair a card with the national tournament, right? Are you able to do something like that? I know some of these leagues in the past have tried to do something like leading up to the NCAA tournaments. All those questions, I think, we'll continue to get answers from, and we'll see how RAF does for their second card. And then, obviously, man, National Duels is right on the horizon, about a month away. And then the season, I mean, it's in like 2 weeks. So,
yeah,
we're going to have a lot to talk about. Probably get more, I would say, closer to like a weekly show because we'll have a lot to digest.
Yeah, and that's something just for RAF to think about, too, is they bring some of these guys in, like, potentially bringing some of these guys in that are still coaching, like so many assistant coaches that are still competing right now. Like that'd be interesting if can they do that at the same time as the season? I don't know.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these coaches still train. They're training with the guys. Like they're not maybe training to compete as much, but yeah. I mean, I think that's an interesting thing.
Throw a coaching matchup in.
Well, you can finally. I think RAF creates a certain feel where before, if you did the whole player coach thing as a coach, like you try to compete on the world level, but you were also coaching, that takes away because you have to do all the training and the tournaments and the lead up, and you're trying to make a world team and you're going to world team trials. For this, it's a one-off match. It's not a tournament. It's one match. So, like, that's where I think if you just really, you can still kind of train for one match here and there. And not feeling like you're, dedicating your whole life to trying to make a world team or an Olympic team.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, a lot of exciting stuff coming up. Exciting stuff for sport wrestling, but man, it's almost go time for the season, and we're gonna be ramping it up, and we're pumped. I don't know about you. I do know about you. I know you're pumped.
Yeah, you do know about me. So, yeah, I'm pumped. We'll probably check back in like right before the season, and talk a little bit about RAF 2, and then kind of get into maybe some first couple duels of the season if there's some exciting stuff.
Yep. Well, I appreciate you guys listening. This first Takedown Podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe, everything on YouTube, Instagram, Spotify. We appreciate you guys, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.